Well, the first thoughts I got about what was going on was a phone call I got from my husband who said a plane went into the World Trade Center. And then things moved, I guess, kind of rapidly. I work at Baruch College, which is right on 25th Street, Lexington Avenue, and I have a small staff, but a staff that I needed to be aware of and worried about. Some people were more emotional than others. Someone who works for me is in a wheelchair. I had to make sure that we could get everybody to a place of safety. We're on the 8th floor, so we stayed there for a while where I knew at least I could make some phone calls because the landlines were still working, so I called my husband, I called my parents. Everything's okay, we're fine, and then they moved us off the 8th floor downstairs, and that was the last of any connections we had. So once I got the staff safely to wherever they had to be, which was a long time because pretty much the city was closed down, so the word we got was anybody in Manhattan could go, anybody who was outside of Manhattan, if they could find a way to get home, they could, and once I knew everybody was settled, I realized I could leave, and I walked out the door, and the first thing I saw was armed National Guard people standing at the corner in full armor and rifles standing at the corner. I'm like, whoa. Then it suddenly dawns on you what's going on. I had seen it on TV, but you never walk out the door any place in Manhattan or any place in the United States until then and see armed forces. You see that on TV in other countries. And suddenly they were all over the place. And so they were there, and half of me was relaxed because of my husband being military. I knew that meant that was okay, but also aware of what was going on. And I proceeded to then head towards Grand Central Station, which was my way home once they said we could do that. And walking up Park Avenue, afraid to turn around because I was afraid of what I was going to see when I turned around and looked. And finally I did, and all you saw was smoke and just massive amounts of smoke downtown. And then I wanted to know, why was I walking to Grand Central Station? Why? This could be another target. Do I really want to get in there, and do I really want to do this? So I thought about that for a while, and as I just kept walking, walking up Park Avenue, there's a church on Park Avenue on 38th Street, and they just had their doors wide open. Tables outside with, I guess, parishioners or whoever, handing out tissues, water, sign that says, come in, sit down, relax. Anything you need, people would stop and just get tissues if you needed them, water if you needed it. Just anything that they needed, but the church was sort of a welcoming haven, I guess, just to come in, sit down. It's cool inside, relax if you need a bathroom, if you need water, come in here. And, I proceeded on to Grand Central Station, getting there saying, I need to just get in and out of this building as fast as I can. This could be another building. This could be not a good place to go. So we did eventually get out of there. Looking at the train, you're riding the train out of Manhattan and you're looking back and all you see is smoke. It was just this, it maybe was, more smoke in my mind than really, but all I could see looking downtown was the smoke. And, there's just ongoing things. And that sort of phases out, and then what I remember a lot was coming back to work a couple of days later. Being at Baruch College, being near the Armory, Baruch was open for people who needed places to go, for people who were coming to look for people. So all I remember seeing in Manhattan for weeks and weeks and weeks was signs on every available wall, post, telephone pole, bus stop, people pleading, did you see my son, did you see my daughter, please call me, this person is missing. And it just seemed endless, and it was just so heartbreaking just to look at those signs and just wonder, were these the people that they were talking about who were jumping out of the buildings? Were these the people who just blew up? And this heartbreaking part of just reading these signs, and I'd stop once in a while and read a few of them, and then just couldn't read anymore, and then it'd go on. But they just stayed there forever. And they were on, it seemed to me, every available inch of wall space in Manhattan had signs of people looking for loved ones. Did you see them? And pictures of them, pictures of what they looked like. That's probably most of my recollection at this point. Not a lot. It was a day that just sort of faded into the next day, coming back into Manhattan, when there was just no traffic. Park Avenue was just totally dead. There was no traffic any place. Going back to, right after the planes hit the World Trade Center, when we were still up in our offices, the person in the office next to me was very, very sort of petrified, and all she could hear was planes over the building. Why are planes flying over our building? Why are planes flying over our building? Well, there were military planes all over the place at the time, all over Manhattan, but what she could hear was planes, and she was like just petrified. The thoughts that there were planes around. You get to a point where everything scares you. Everything from the sound of an airplane, the sound of sirens, you don't know what's coming at you, and you just don't know interesting. We know, I felt that, we got through it okay. We were lucky in terms of being far enough away from it not to have anybody at that point, in our immediate group that got, hurt. Obviously, we had friends and people had friends and relatives and so on and so forth. But just the whole thought of just being so strange, suddenly understanding what terrorism can be in terms of just being terrorized for the rest of your life. Even now, being terrorized that, something's going to happen tomorrow at the anniversary, or something's going to happen anytime. They've probably succeeded in that way in just making us constantly terrorized over anything that's going to happen. And yet we just